Hello, folks. We'll get started in about 3 minutes. Hope you're all doing well. Good to see y'all. Dr. Bob, I just got your VM. Yes, and that's awesome. We'll talk about that. I'll give you a call soon. All right, everybody. Well, happy afternoon, Wednesday, August 26th. Hope you're all doing well. Can somebody give me a confirmation that you can hear me okay and you can see the Thinkorswim charts, please? Thank you, Russell. Thank you, Mike. Daryl? All right. All right, so again, my purpose of these webinars are typically going to be an hour or less each Wednesday at this time. And my goal is to at least get through the overview of what I'm seeing, review what we talked about the previous week if it's important, and so forth. So, as you have questions, you can always put them in the chat and I will get to them without question about that. And so let's just get started. So one of the things that I talked about last week, right, we were looking at the indexes, whether you're looking at the S&P, the Dow, or the NASDAQ, okay, and any of those three. I mentioned that a couple things were still very important to me, right? And again, it doesn't matter which of these three you're looking at. I typically look at all three, but the stronger one has been the NQ. But now, as you can see, the E-mini has hit a new all-time high, okay? Again, for you option traders, right, that's like the SPY, the SPX, right? And there should be no surprise that happened, right? From what we talked about last week, we had a couple things going in our favor. Well, three things. One, we had this beautiful uptrend, right? The trend is our friend. Never forget that, as basic as that is. Two, we have this, my life's work, right? We had seasonality saying we're heading higher, okay? And three, we had, remember I talked about last week, the retailer traders, okay? Those traders, and most of us fall in that category, we're wrong over 90% of the time, right? And what I said last week, I think we were about, on the time of this webinar last week, retailer traders, 78% of them were short the market in the Forex market in the S&P. Why do I look at Forex markets? Because that's the largest volume in the world. I look at some large brokers, I look at their sentiment, what their actual traders are doing live, and almost 80% of them are shorting this market, or the Dow, okay, or the NASDAQ, but basically the E-mini. Does anybody, again, I'm sorry, it's a professor in me. Does anybody have any idea why the retailer traders keep trying to short this? If you want to answer it, go ahead. I'll just give you a couple minutes to think about that, and then I'm going to answer that question for you, okay? So one of the main reasons retailers are wrong, they're always trying to pick tops and bottoms, okay? Why? I don't know. You may be one of those that say, well, yeah, that makes sense because I try to do that too, right? Well, I've learned my lesson over the years. I never try to pick tops anymore, okay? Now, that doesn't mean I don't ever take a trade that's against the trend with a good seasonal move if I like the risk, okay, the risk reward. But go with the trend. And as I mentioned, we have a lot going for us right now that we're going to go higher and higher and higher. It does not mean every day, okay? So back here, when we had this little retracement, just back to the 20-period moving average, okay, that's just normal fluctuations, right? In an uptrend, it goes like this, okay? Rarely does it go like that, right? So we have a lot going on for us right now to continue that bullish activity. If you look at it from the seasonal, this red line, okay, usually going into the second week of September, we may have a little bit of pullback until for a couple weeks, maybe, okay, maybe right here. I'm not going to short the heck out of the markets during those 2 weeks, right? What I'll do is if it does pull back, I'll just look to re-enter when we get a nice trigger. Okay, that's how I'm going to play it. Okay. So big picture again, I like to bring up the futures for this, but we can bring up the spiders, we got new highs, the SPX, new highs, and so forth, okay? The NASDAQ, you know, all the tech stocks, just creaming everybody, right? Creaming everything. You want to get in front of that? I don't, okay? So that's one of the purposes of the webinars each week is first, give you my overall bias of direction, okay? And I'm not right all the time, but all I'm going to do is present to you the data that'll give me the conclusions that are high probability conclusions, okay? Just like the Dow, same thing, okay? Now the Dow is interesting because we're actually not at a new all-time high yet, right? So that's the only of the major indexes here. See, the high was 29,543 before the Corona crash. We're not up there yet, okay? So, do we think we're going to get there between now and next week's webinar? Very, very possible. Very, very possible, okay? Okay, let me talk about the dollar index. So we talked about this last week, right? Where, again, you have this massive downtrend. So we prefer to go in that direction, right? We have a seasonal short play until the start of October. Then we turn corners roughly, right? So all I'm looking for is triggers, you know, typically right around the middle band has been a good re-entry short, okay? But I'm not going long on here. Also, interestingly enough, I'll start talking about this more. What you see, this yellow line is divergence forming, okay? And one of my new indicators that I have, okay, it'll identify when there's divergence. So we had divergence right here, which means this candle, this was expected to go back up. Again, I didn't take this trade because I like to take divergence when it's in the direction of my seasonal in the trade, okay? So if divergence would have been up here, you know, then I would have really liked that trade. But you can definitely take divergence as more of a scalp or a shorter term trade in many cases, okay? But again, I'm only looking for short plays right now, okay? Only looking for short plays. Will we test these lows again? Yeah, absolutely we will. Absolutely. Okay, bonds. And again, this could be, in fact, I'll bring up the TLT. Okay, that's the bonds of the option, if you like, or TMF is another really good one, a 3X ETF, okay? But anyway, so when I bring up bonds, you can see now, we're looking at the seasonal, right, where we expected this move back down, we're expecting a jump, and then once we get into late September, we'll look for this to roll back over. So what'll probably happen is this, okay, over the next month. Is this the low right now? Hard to say. You know, that Lagarde trigger right here. a little uncertain right now on the bonds, the 30 years here. But in saying that, I'm forecasting it to do something like this, and then it'll roll over, okay, until roughly late November. So if you're looking for like a TLT option play, let's say you want to go short on it, I would wait. You know, I would wait until roughly another couple weeks. Let this do its magic, come back down, right? Then you have a good potential option play on TLT until maybe a November or December expiration. Okay. Okay, the euro. So again, you can see from the weekly seasonal chart here, this dotted red line. And again, most of you have taken some of my classes. I'm recognizing most of your names. If there's something that I'm showing you that you don't even know what it is, let me know and I will stop and quickly explain it, okay? But we're basically forecasting on the euro to head higher here, right, until, oh, let's just say October 1, roughly, okay? That's what we're looking for. We did a nice option. We did a nice trade on the futures market. We got in right here, hit profit target 1. It came just a few ticks away from 2 before the rest of it stopped me out of break even. That's trading, right? That's trading. Made money on the first part, stopped out of break even by just a few ticks on the second. But this thing's going to continue higher, okay? And we're going to head higher until roughly October, then we'll look to short that. Okay, that's on the euro. If you like options on that, you can look at even the FXE. Volume is okay. Just be careful. I mean, but you know, you can trade. I think it's. Let me just double check. I think it's FXE. Yeah, yeah. So you know, there's not a. I mean, there's enough volume to trade it. You just got to be careful. But you know, this is something where we know it's going to head higher. We're in an uptrend. The seasonal. If I look at the euro in the FX markets, 62% of retailers are short. So that tells me we're going to continue higher, right? Because there's more retailers short than long, okay? So it's a perfect formula right now for the euro to continue higher, okay? Let me bring up the VIX and I'll get into some individual stocks as well. Okay, so the VIX. We've been in this downtrend, right? Ever since the end of the Corona crash, we've been pretty much business as usual, right? The VIX heads lower, stocks head higher. You can see it's some choppiness here until October where the VIX heads lower, which means the markets head higher. Okay, that's typically what happens. So I'm expecting it to pretty much continue down. You might have some weeks it peaks up a little bit. But overall, you know, we're looking for the VIX to continue lower. All right, crude oil. So interesting enough, Forex traders around the world are about 50-50. So they don't have any clear direction on what crude oil is going to do. Okay? So we're not getting any indication from that point, you know, what's going on. Now, it does look like once we get into the second week of September, most of September is bullish in crude oil, right? Most of September. And we're already in that uptrend. Okay, so what I hope, folks, I just want to give you my method of thinking. I don't need to try to short this little burst down here, but I do hope it comes back maybe to that 40 level, and then we get a new trigger down here like the Laguerre, right? Because we know it should be heading higher until roughly October, where then we look for shorts pretty much the rest of the year, okay? So go with the trend when you can with these seasonal moves. And if I see a shift in sentiment, if I see retailer traders continuing to go long on crude, that'll give us, continue to go more short, then that'll give us a good indicator that, yeah, it is going to go go higher here soon, okay? Remember, a few months ago, crude was going to stay at zero forever, right? Imagine that didn't happen, did it? Okay, gold. So this is becoming pretty bullish, folks, and let me explain on gold. And again, I like to show this analysis in the futures markets because then there's not gaps really. But again, it's going to look very similar if I show you like GLD, okay? The only difference is you see the gaps, right, between the opens. So just so you know, this applies to the stocks or ETFs as well, okay? All right, so let me go back to gold. So the reason I say it's pretty bullish right now, we typically are right about, you can see this white line is what should have happened on gold up until right now, okay? And it's been tracking really well. So the thought is that we're going to have a decline in gold now until roughly November, late November and December, right? Which most people know that's one of my favorite trades of the year coming up, November, December long in gold, okay? It should buy your Christmas presents year in and year out. But in all honesty, you know, we've been in this really big uptrend. We have a retracement. It's kind of now sideways. You know, what's going to happen? Even though we have a seasonal short, okay, I'm not ready to aggressively go short this, okay? Because again, the trend is our friend. You know, we had really one big down day on gold, and then it's just been consolidating. So I'm in no rush here. I actually think gold's going to go higher, okay, even though the seasonal is going lower, only because of this strong trend. And what's happening is there's still a lot of money on the sidelines, okay? There's a lot of people with a lot of money that they don't know when they want to come back in, and when they do, they're going to put it into bonds, gold, you know, and then some of the really, you know, well-known stocks. So if gold makes this move down, right, again, I'll be licking my chops November into December for that long play on gold. Oh, and by the way, next week I will also be introducing TradeStation with my analysis as well. I'll kind of go back and forth on the weeks. I decided to stick with Thinkorswim today, as I know most of you are using Thinkorswim. Some of you use both, but I do want to introduce both because TradeStation does have some tools that I use in my analysis that Thinkorswim doesn't have the capability. So let's look at just a few stocks here. Okay, so Apple, we all know it's got the split coming up, right? Which I mentioned last week. It's pretty bullish. Right, so I'm just waiting at this point. You know, if you have open positions, you have the outright stock or an option play longer term, I would hold on through it. You know, that's what I would do. But once we get the split, right, it's going to go down 4-1. So you divide 506 divided by 4. You know, roughly that's going to be the new stock price, and what's going to happen? People that couldn't afford it at 515 now can, you know, a few more will be able to afford that. So, you know, Apple's going to continue higher. It's just a matter of getting the entry in the son of a gun, right? That's the tough part. When do you enter? Well, we had one enter recently, right here, right at earnings there. That was the last entry we had on the daily chart. But again, when you have a strong uptrend, you can go to the 4-hour and just, you know, you're going to get an entry quite much more often. So we had an entry on last Tuesday, 6 o'clock, right here, okay? So there's a lot of ways to do it. It's just a matter of, you know, how much do you want to chase it? I'll wait for the retracement. You know, maybe after the split, it'll retrace first and give us some good entries to buy some more Apple. Now, I'm bringing Facebook up here. You know, I don't have the seasonal on the 10-year yet. I do on the 5, which I don't have on here right now. But the reason I'm keeping Apple is, you know, this is one of those stocks, right, that everyone wants to own now. So, you know, what you want to do, though, is don't try to pick the top. Don't try to short this. Wait for retracements. When you get those retracements, okay, then you have a great opportunity to go long. For example, right around the bottom Bollinger Band, right around the Bollinger Band, these are 2 potential entries if you wanted to get into Facebook, okay? You just got to be patient. Google just hit a new time high, okay? Now, interesting enough, you can see here, I've got potential bearish divergence, okay? Again, I told you I'm gonna start talking more about divergence and how that plays a role. So in saying that, when I get the actual trigger here of divergence, I repeat, I am not shorting Google. Will it retrace a little bit? Probably, okay? But what I like to see is divergence in the direction of the move that's expected, right? So if I can get a bullish divergence over here to the upside, and I can get a Laguerre trigger with this seasonal, look out, right? So I do hope this retraces a little bit, okay? And when it does, we'll look to enter in the long side. But definitely, why on God's earth would you short Google right now? Netflix. Look at that. Close to new highs today. Not quite, right? Well, I shouldn't say, well, we got a little bit of room, but you took the trigger right here. You're happy camper right now with that seasonal, okay? It broke out basically. It was just waiting. Everyone's watching Netflix right now, right? Again, wait for those retracements, then you can enter. If you're a little impatient, again, here was an entry right here. Here's an entry right here. And this entry, you took a little bit of heat. Now you're okay. Or here's the next entry. So I mean, you'll get the entries. You just got to be patient with them. Or you can go to the 4-hour chart. Okay, we had a combo long right here, which ended up being a really nice opportunity. Okay, and then we just had one right before the move up here. All right, let me fix this back to daily, 1 year. Okay. Tesla, again, they have the split coming up as well. We're getting close to having some divergence. Again, there's no way I'm shorting this. No way. Look at that beautiful move. Okay, so again, when we do get a retracement in the market, we'll look to go long again on these. Same with Amazon. We're getting potential divergence. So really what that's telling me, as we're getting divergence, are we due for a pullback a little bit at some point? Yeah, at some point we're going to pull back. We're going to pull back, maybe to the middle band again like we do. I mean, remember, markets go like this. Okay, they don't usually go like that. So, even in a bullish week, you can look at some of your stocks and say, well, wow, that didn't go up a lot. That's normal activity, okay, before then it continues higher. So you got to be patient on some of those. And then NVIDIA, this was my pick of the year. Basically, right when we had a turnaround with COVID, I looked at all the seasonal moves over the next year that had dividend stocks, and based off my seasonal indicator, and NVIDIA was our biggest percent move expected. There's a lot of good movers right now, but that definitely's been doing well. Nice trigger in June here. The really nice trigger right after the COVID crash. Could have got in. Imagine getting in at 225 right now on that, right? So patience will make you money. There's no question about it. Okay. So not bad. 23 minutes for the review. Oh, Jim, I'm going to go over divergence more, but let me bring up Amazon because it's got that. Okay. What I've had programmed, and it's not, I'm still testing it. That's why I don't show it much, but I left it on my charts today. So what it is when you have divergence, you have a new high in price, but the oscillator that I'm using divergence was just a traditional RSI. We don't have a new high. Okay. So when you have that, when you have a new high in price, but not a new high in an oscillator, that could be divergence, and it's pretty powerful. And what I like it is, again, I'm not diverging on something like this. I'm not getting in Amazon's way. Okay, I'm going to let this thing continue to go higher. But maybe it'll come back to the middle band and then give me a new trigger. But what I love about divergence is that when you're getting divergence in the direction you want it to diverge, right? That really gets me excited. So I haven't seen one yet today that we've been looking at, but I'll show you if I find one. The other part of what I'm having programmed, should be ready in a couple of weeks, is an actual scan on divergence, so that when I have all my stocks here, there'll be another column here that'll say divergence, yes, and those are the ones that if I want to just check to see if the divergence is in the direction I'm looking for with the seasonal move, those are some really good trades. So that's what I'm working on. And I'm also going to have it put a line on the day it was diverged. I'll have it put a line in the chart. So I'm not done with it. It's work in progress. Okay. All right. So let's take a look real quickly. I know there's not many FX traders in here. Okay. So actually, let me go into something else here. But I'm just going to go quickly through a couple things I'm looking at. So I'm going to sort by 20 days. US dollar peso. Okay, this is a trade I haven't entered yet because I haven't got filled. But you can see here on the US dollar Mexican peso, we typically head higher now. Okay, until almost Christmas time. So I've got it. I had an order in here. I was jumping the Laguerre a little bit, but my entry is right here, so I'm not filled. My thought is it's going to break out when it does. Okay, and that's what I'm looking for, and I have my stop really right at these lows here. Okay, but I like the pace of the trend up. It typically does. Again, you can always go back in your chart and look at roughly August time frame of last year. Bear with me here. Let me fix this. Okay, so our trigger was September 20th right here, and it went from here to here, which was a good trade. And then we had another trigger October 30th, good trade. Okay, so again, two nice trades waiting on the trigger, knowing you have that seasonal move. So it doesn't matter if this is US dollar Mexican peso, if this is Apple, if this is Netflix. If you wait for the Laguerre trigger in the direction of the seasonal move that's expected, based off, in this case, I have a default as 10 years, okay? You should be a very consistent trader. Okay, the other thing I'm looking at is US dollar ZAR. So here's an example, by the way, with the divergence back here. Okay, there was divergence. We got the divergence right here in the arrow, and then it started that nice down move. I wish they all worked out that way, right? But what it tells me is, it tells you that potentially we're going to have a retracement. Now, this was a nice long play, so I wouldn't have shorted this anyway, okay? But it would have told me to take profits if I was looking to stay in the trade. I would have gotten out. Okay. So right now you can see we typically head higher. So all I'm waiting now on this particular pair is for a trigger long. We've got an early stochastic. It does seem to be some support at the bottom band to head higher. Okay. And if you trade more Forex and you want me to talk more about it, send me an email. If nobody does, I won't spend a lot of time on something if nobody else is really listening to me. Okay. Okay. Let's look at futures. And then we'll spend the last 20 minutes or so talking about stocks, okay? So I'm going to sort futures by the 20 days here. So let me just open that up for you. I'm just sorting on 20 days. So we have a 5% move coming on soybean meal, okay, over the next 20 trading days. So this is shaping up pretty nice, right? We've got a Laguerre trigger and we got a seasonal short. Okay, that definitely looked like a double top at 306. We actually took this in the alert on the Z contract, which I don't have up here. This is just the regular, okay? And we hit profit right here and we're out of this trade. But yeah, this is heading lower with high probability. Platinum, okay? And be careful with platinum, folks. It can rip your head off. But it should be heading lower, right? So again, I told you, just like the gold trade, I'm very skeptical right now. I think money's going to come in the metals and we're actually going to head higher earlier than what we typically do here. This may just consolidate before it heads higher, but seasonally we typically do head lower, okay? Okay, what else do I see that I want to bring up? So we also have corn. Okay, corn's interesting because I'm really looking for long plays on corn once we get into mid-September. So we've had this uptrend now. I'd like to see a pullback, and then we'll look on the next Laguerre trigger long. We'll look to go long on corn. Okay. Cotton was another really nice trade we had to the upside. Okay. Again, uptrend. This is important whether you're trading anything. Okay. Futures, Forex, stocks. You have the uptrend. So you're going in the direction. Okay. Here was the trade right here. Okay. You've got the seasonal. Okay. So the trend and the seasonal, and then you have the trigger. That's what we look for. That's what makes, in my opinion, using seasonality very, very high probability trading, because for whatever reason, and you can do your analysis as much as you want, it heads up higher, big picture here until February of next year now, okay? Yeah, we can take a look at natural gas. Let me just sort by symbol here. By the way, if you really want to get fired up, try day trading natural gas. Okay, so we've been this trend, right? We've been in this big trend, and we should be heading higher now until November. So again, you had a beautiful trigger right here. If you caught that, if you were still in this trade, you wouldn't be on the webinar right now. You'd be retired, okay? But high probability trade. So yeah, I think this will continue higher. If we get a pullback, we can look to re-enter all the way up until right here, okay? Any questions on that? Okay. All right, so let me also take a look on the opposite side there. Some of the bigger moves to come here, you know, is okay. Lean hogs. We had a combo long here. It's headed higher. Again, big picture, right? We kind of head back down, then we had higher, but big picture, we're heading higher on lean hog. Yes, I do trade lean hogs. I actually like trading lean hogs. But now I'm waiting for a retracement, and I'll look in this November timeframe to go long again on lean hogs. Okay. And then let's just bring up the yen. So the yen has this big, big change coming, right? Look at that. Right around beginning of October here. Okay, look at that on the yen. So what am I hoping the yen does is continue up, get a double top, consolidate, and then right around late September, October, let's short the yen, okay? Let's short it. I believe one of the option plays think it's FXY. Okay, you can do it on the currency. Now again, volume's fairly thin. And as we get closer, when I find currency pairs, I'll also give you stocks that are highly correlated with that, okay? All right. All right, let me bring up sugar. So let me clear that out for you. Oops, I hit the wrong button. Okay, let me add that back in. Sorry about that. Okay. So with sugar, we have a retracement right around the 20 period, and we have a move coming back up from most of September, right? So again, I'm just waiting at this point now on sugar to do this. Come on down, consolidate, and then when the Laguerre trigger's long, okay, we can look to enter that. Okay, so again, it's just, in that case, it's just about patience. That's all it is patience. All right, let me bring up all, let me find something here. All right, let's bring up the weeklies. And I was just teasing. I don't day trade natural gas. If you look at a chart on natural gas and you opened up the dome, I would have a heart attack. Okay, it's a crazy mover. You could try paper trading first, but if I had to trade it, day trade it, I would do it off the 5 minute. Okay, so let's see here. I'm going to sort by SIG here. And what I've been doing, I think I said this last week, the short plays I'm currently ignoring, because even though these are short seasonals that typically work year over year, okay, the only one I'm in right now is BB. I still prefer triggers in the direction of the overall seasonal move in the markets that we looked at. That's why I look at the S&P, the Dow, the NASDAQ, okay? So what I'm really focused on are the green ones, okay? It doesn't mean the shorts won't work, because they've worked year over year as well, but I prefer the longs right now. Okay? That's just my preference. So Acadia has been one that, you know, we've just been waiting. You know, I'm in this early. I've got a longer term play on this, but you can see we're getting close. We're getting close to potential divergence, and before we know it, Acadia will be back up here. Okay, potential bullish divergence is coming. We're just waiting, just waiting. ADSK, Autodesk. Again, look at that beautiful seasonal move coming, right? So we were in an uptrend. It's just basically been consolidating. Here's what I want this to do, okay? Earnings is over now. I want this to come back and consolidate and start heading up. And the next Laguerre trigger, that'll be a phenomenal trade on ADSK, okay? So that's really, you know, as I'm looking through charts, that's what I'm looking for. So I don't have to write this down and try to remember, because the next trigger I get, it'll show up here as a trigger with a good 20, 40, 60 move. And then you can look at what option play do you want to do, okay? So here's a great example, AKS, which is AK Steel, a pretty low stock right now, price-wise, right? You don't want to fight that downtrend. I don't care what anything shows you. Sometimes you got to use common sense, okay? Amazon, as we talked about, we have a great seasonal move coming and it's at highs, so we got to wait for pullbacks, right? Sometimes the hardest part about buying some of the hot stocks is when do you enter, right? Again, we have a system for it. I mean, I don't have to think about it too much. I basically wait for it to pull back and I get a new Laguerre trigger, okay? Whether it's the daily or the 4-hour. So I don't have to overanalyze it, but it could be a week from now, a month from now, you know, we don't know when Amazon is going to come back and give us an entry. Costco. Look at that beautiful seasonal move, right? Basically, it was starting to head up since June, okay? We had our trigger right here, folks. It doesn't get any better than that, right? Seasonal, the white line is what should have been happening. And then the red and the green is what did happen. And then the red is the forecast. So you can see back here, we started heading higher seasonal wise on Costco. We had this trigger right at the bottom. I mean, the triggers right here don't get any better, okay? And if you bought Costco, if you did an option play, you're a very, very happy person on this. But we'll get to re-enter. There'll be a new re-entry point here. But see, what you notice is when you're looking at the seasonal radar screen, here's what's cool about it. And I can put in all weekly or all optionable, and this would double, okay? But the cool thing about this is all I'm focusing on are the high probability stocks right now from a seasonal perspective. It doesn't mean none of these others won't work and you can't make money on them. But unless you plan on trading 100 stocks at a time, why wouldn't you just want to focus on the ones with the highest odds, right? I mean, obviously that's how I trade, so I'm a little biased. But when people ask me, you know, how do you weed down, you know, all these stocks into your top 20, 30, or 40? This is how I do it. And then these are the ones I focus on, okay? Delta, right? Airlines do make me just a tad nervous, but they shouldn't, right? They shouldn't, because we should be heading higher. What a nice trigger here. You know, let this come back. Let this come back. Let this come back. And we'll go long on Delta, okay? Are we bottoming on ENDP? From a seasonal perspective, we should be, okay, right here. The cool thing with the Laguerre, it's going to tell us when you can enter, okay, when you can enter. What I'd be looking for is to come up, pull back, and then when you have this higher low from 1 to 2, okay, that's the great new entry point. Don't try to pick the bottom on this big downtrend. Okay, you just mail me the money. Okay, just mail me the money. FedEx. Wow. Look at that nice seasonal move. So again, had a beautiful trigger here, back here. You're like, well, yeah, but you know, if you didn't get in here, what are you going to do? Right? Again, go to that 4-hour chart. Let's see. So we had an entry right here. We had an entry right here. We had an entry right here. Too much coffee today. I'm a little crooked, right? So if there's a stock that has a really nice move, it's a stock you want to purchase, it's in line with the seasonal, but it's not giving you re-enters or enters because it's so strong, get in on the 4-hour. Is my recommendation. FFIV. You can see here we typically had higher, and then the real breakout is October on F5 networks, right? What's kind of cool here is, I mean, this thing's just been 133, it hasn't been able to come down on, right? So if you get a Laguerre trigger here long, right, that might be a good opportunity for you. When you have these narrow Bollinger Bands, when they're really, really narrow, they're not as useful. But what is that telling you? It's telling you it's consolidating for that breakout. Well, which way is it going to break out? Well, you won't know until it happens, right? But if you're looking at the seasonal move, you're going to say, well, with high likelihood, it's going to break out to the upside, Dr. Keith, right? Makes sense to me. Okay, let's say you're looking for a 3-month option play. Okay, I'm going to sort here by 60 trading days, which is 3 months. Okay, and again, I'm not interested in the shorts right now. I'm not even going to tempt myself. Okay, it's like ice cream. If it's in the freezer, I'm going to think about it. All right. So AMRN, 35% move coming for the next 3 months. Okay. So if you're looking to do an option play, you can go 3 to 4 months out. Again, wait for triggers. I actually, here was a trigger. This has just been consolidating, okay? But you can look for that next trigger. At some point, we're going to be talking. It'll be up here with high likelihood, okay? Just like Delta. Okay, we had a trigger on Delta right here, right here. You could have took some profits right here. Okay, so again, what I really wanted to continue to show you each week is how I look for trades, what I'm doing. I only like to look at the best opportunities, okay? It does not mean I can't pick a stock like, I'm just going to go down here and pick one, okay? Shopify, which is a great play, okay? One, it doesn't have enough seasonal data, but I mean, if you're in a trend like this, right, what do you want to do? You want to go in with the triggers, okay? The problem for me is I don't have enough seasonal data telling me that this should happen. It doesn't mean it won't. The trend is our friend, great triggers. Plus, we've been in a bull market, right? So a lot of stocks are heading up. Snap. Let me find one that's got a seasonal as well. Stamp. Okay. Stamps.com. Look at that. Beautiful looking setup coming, right? We're just waiting on triggers right here. We want that Laguerre trigger right here. Okay, uptrend, consolidating, and we've got a seasonal move coming on stamps.com. Okay. The beauty about using seasonal data is it's showing you the projected move based off of the way I have it programmed here, based on the 10 years, okay? Based on 10 years of what it's been doing. I can change that to 20, but then it's got to have stocks that have at least 20 years. I can change it to 5. I have found 10 as the sweet spot, okay? Then the other tool I use is my data mining. Let me bring it up. First of all, I want to make sure I'm sharing the screen. Can you see this where it says stocks for bulls? I know many of you have this. Okay. So I sorted by September. Let me just explain this for a minute. Okay. So I do this, I update this every Christmas time. And this is data based on as long as the stock has been publicly traded. Okay. So what this is saying is VF Corp right here. Let me change the color. Right here, VF Corp. If you got in on 9/1, and this is just the stock itself, no options, okay? Which means the odds are the percentage is going to usually be much higher with options. But regardless, that's irrelevant right now. And you exited on the 22nd. 14 out of the last 17 years, because it's been in business 17 years, you've made money roughly almost 4%, okay? Not the most impressive, okay? But again, if I was gonna look to go and trade VFC this month in September coming up, I would only be looking for longs, right? But let me find you some that really pique my interest, okay? Right here, a 6.5% move, 37 years it's been trading, it's made money 34 out of those 37 years. Think about that. This is Southern Corp, okay? So if you just entered on September 1 and exited on Halloween, you made money on this trade 34 out of 37 years, a 6.5% profit is the average, okay? That's incredible data to have, isn't it? Now, again, an option play is typically 5 to 10 times more, depending on your option play percent return. But if you guys and gals don't put Southern Corp on your watch list for September, then just send me the money, please. I will put it on there for you, okay? So how do you do that? Do I just enter it? Let me clarify here, okay? So right here, do I just go in long on September 1 and exit on 10/31? No. No. I mean, you can. The data is telling you if you do that, you've won money 34 out of 37 years, 6.5%. Okay, but I don't do that. Okay, I used to. Now what I do, let me go back to Southern. Okay, let's look at last September. I got to go back a little bit further. 1 second. Let me get to the current. I want to make sure I'm in the right. Okay. So September, okay? We're in September right here, right here. So you can either get in on a 4-hour or you wait for a trigger. Right here's the trigger. Right here's the trigger. Right here's the trigger. Okay? It's amazing. And then you really hit it nice in January, okay? But that's how you can go back and look. So now, look where we're at, okay? Look where we're at, right here. If we get a Laguerre trigger on Southern, do you think this is going to go higher? Nobody knows. But what I can tell you is it's gone higher 34 out of 37 years during the next 60 days between that window, okay? So that's my Dr. K stock tip of this week. I'm trying to be as corny as I can today, right? All right, so are there any questions today on anything before we conclude? Again, this is kind of the format I want to do every week, give you some ideas, give you some suggestions. You know, a lot of you have purchased some of my indicators, so it gives you a feel for how I use them. I will also, like I said, start introducing TradeStation in here. TradeStation has I just finished something up with TradeStation where it's amazing. I can have it scanned that it only shows me trades that has a seasonal advantage with the Laguerre trigger in the direction of that seasonal advantage. So I can even dwindle down my watch list even more, looking at 1,000 stocks at a time. It's incredible. So I'll start showing you some of that as well. Oh yeah, Charles, no, I'll keep doing them. You know, I want to give back, and you know, I enjoy doing this anyway, so we'll definitely keep having these, and we're going to keep recording them and posting them on YouTube just so that you can go back. Jim, resend it then. I don't know. Oh, that is my email, so if I didn't reply, either it went to my spam, I'll have to check, but if you resend it, that'd be great, okay? And we'll touch base absolutely and make sure that things are good to go. You can do it to the keith.wade.dba. Yeah, so if anybody has questions, because this one doesn't seem to get caught up in spam as much, keith.wade.dba@gmail.com. I just typed it in the chat, okay? Dr. Keith at seasonaltraderpro.com. Sometimes it goes into spam, but if you've had luck with me there, you can send it there as well, okay? All right, folks, we'll have a great week again. Thanks, Jim. Perfect. Look forward to the markets to continue to rise. It does not mean that's going to happen every day because we're at highs right now, folks, right? So again, when you are at highs, there can be a lot of movement because people are getting stopped out here. People are taking profits. You know, will we pull back to the middle band again? You know, look at how that's been worrying. At some point, we're going to, but again, I am not shorting the market right now, folks. All right. Well, again, I wish you the best. Have a great week. Talk to you next week. Take care.